April, 1945. The air over Berlin hung heavy, soaked with smoke and powder. The sun broke through the gray haze as if afraid to touch this city, broken, dead, yet somehow still alive in its ruins. The road that once led to the suburbs had turned into a black strip of earth, concrete, and metal. The wrecks of trams lay like skeletons. On charred walls you could still make out German slogans painted in crooked letters: Sieg oder Tod, victory or death. For these men, both words no longer meant anything. One T-34. One among thousands of wrecks, but this one, still alive. Its armor was caked with soot, its tracks dragged dust and ash behind them. In the turret, 4 men. 4 who had survived everything. The commander, Lieutenant Horobets, around 40, gray already touching his temples, but his eyes still sharp. He had seen half the world through a tank's narrow sight. Beside him, Petrenko, the driver-mechanic. Older than the commander, but never argued. Spoke little, smoked often. Said the pipe smoke helped him not hear his heart pounding under fire. Behind, Sashko, the gunner. 19. Just yesterday he joked that after the war he'd go to Kharkiv to study engineering. Today he sat silent, clutching an old photo of his sister. And Klim, the loader. A strong man, a kind soul, always with a smile. His voice was the loudest in the crew, but now he was silent too. All stared ahead, through the narrow periscope slit, toward where smoke mixed with morning light. Horobets, whispering. About 5 kilometers to Berlin, maybe 6. Petrenko. 3, if the roads still exist. The engine droned, metal creaked under strain. They crawled forward. Around them, the ruins of buildings, the wreckage of armor, twisted bodies no one came to collect anymore. Narrator. They had gone through everything, from Kursk to the Vistula, through the swamps of Belarus, through the burned cities of Poland. Now, their last day of war. Or maybe the last day of life. Horobets took a tattered scrap of newspaper from his pocket. On it, a photo of his native village. A house, a field, an apple tree under the window. He looked at it for a few seconds, then folded it and tucked it away. Sashko, hesitantly. Commander, when this all ends, what then? Horobets, after a pause. Then there will be silence. Petrenko. Is there silence at home? I've forgotten what it sounds like. The tankers fell quiet. Only the engines hum, beating in time with their hearts. On the horizon a bridge appeared, their objective. From there, they said, the road led straight to the center of Berlin. But they knew, if they reached it, they might not come back. Klim, with a joke to break the tension. The main thing is for that bridge to hold our tank. Would be a shame, make it to Berlin and fall into the water. A brief laugh. Short, but real. Horobets glanced at each of them. His face was hard, but his eyes were warm. Horobets. Listen, Klim, if we fall, it's fate. And if we don't, it means someone's still waiting for us at home. He pressed the radio button. The hoarse voice of the duty officer. T-34s, attention. The enemy is retreating to the center. Berlin, in our sights. Task, reach the bridge over the Spree. Do not stop. Horobets. Acknowledged. 34, moving. The engine roared again. Tracks bit into cobblestone. They drove through rubble, past burnt-out vehicles, shattered houses, past people hiding in basements, afraid to raise their heads. Sashko, quietly. Commander, those sitting down there in the cellars. Did they want this war too? Horobets. No one wants it. But someone always starts it. The engine grew louder. Somewhere nearby artillery thumped. Narrator. This was their final road. Ahead, the bridge and iron. Behind, years of fire. And each of them thought of one thing: to hold out a little longer. Close up, Horobets shuts the hatch, raps his knuckles against the steel. Horobets. Well, boys. To Berlin. The tank moves. Smoke and dust rise behind it. The sun breaks the clouds. And it feels like it's watching them go, the only light in the darkness they've come through. The T-34 stood between two charred trees. Only black trunks remained, like fingers reaching into the sky. The air was thick as soot. Overhead, the faint hum of aircraft. Horobets stood by the tank, holding a map. It was stained with oil and ash, but he studied it as if it were the most precious document in the world. Horobets, there it is, the bridge. 3 blocks. If we get through, we break into the center. Petrenko wiped his hands on his overalls, leaned toward the hatch. Petrenko, tracks are holding. Fuel's there. I'll check the filter again and we can go. He slid under the tank, disappeared beneath. A dull clink of tools. Metal striking metal. Klim sat on the armor, holding a belt of ammo, slowly running it through his fingers like a prayer. Klim, joking, Sashko, remember what I told you? If you see a German, don't think, just shoot. By the time you think, he's already not thinking. Sashko smiled, but kept his eyes down. Sashko, what if he sees me first? Klim, then I'll be faster. That's the whole science. A light laugh lifted the tension, for a moment. Then silence again. Horobets came to the turret, laid the map on top, slowly swept his gaze over his men. In each of them he saw not just a soldier, he saw a story. Petrenko crawled out from under the tank, wiped his hands. Petrenko, the engine will give us 20 kilometers, no more. But enough to reach the bridge. Horobets, enough to reach the bridge, the rest doesn't matter. He opened the hatch, took out a metal canteen, held it out to Sashko. Horobets, here, kid. Some water. Sashko drank, then stopped, staring up at the sky. Sashko, the smoke is different today. Like the city is burning not from war, but by itself. Horobets, maybe it is. Berlin's burning for all its sins. They watched the air shiver with heat. The sun barely pierced the smoke, painting everything the color of rust. Klim softly. Commander, and after this, where? Home? Or further still? Horobets. Only silence further on. And if we're lucky, an apple tree under the window. Klim smiled. He wanted to believe in that apple tree, even if it lived only in the mind. A blast sounded close by. The ground quivered, dust slid down. Birds that hid in the trees burst out screaming. Sashko, Fausts. Horobets, no. Farther. But they'll be here soon. He put on his helmet, tightened the strap, clicked the observation device. Horobets, Petrenko, start her up. Petrenko, aye, comrade lieutenant. The growl of the engine cut the quiet. The air filled with thunder until even the sky seemed to tremble. Horobets peered ahead, toward the bridge. There, through clouds of dust, a shattered tower silhouette showed, beside it, a dark shape, maybe an enemy tank. Horobets, Sashko, keep your sights steady. If you see movement, don't wait for a command. Sashko, yes, sir. Klim shut the hatch and slapped it with his palm. Klim, let's go, our steel's not cold yet. And they moved. Tracks tore at the ground. Tanks behind them, other crews, followed. The whole battalion rolled forward like a heavy chain that could no longer be stopped. Within seconds everything around filled with thunder. The air stung with the smell of fire, oil, sweat, and powder. They knew, the last battle lay ahead. But inside each of them burned a fire, to reach, to live, to see how it ends. And that fire was warmer than the sun that no longer warmed through the smoke. The camera slowly rose over the tank. Below, armor glowing with heat. Around, ruins like shadows of days gone by. The engine's rumble melted into a distant cannonade. That sound mixed with silence, with smoke, with the whisper of wind. If we're alive, it wasn't for nothing. Even if today is the last day. And the T-34 vanished into a tail of dust trailing behind it like the tail of time counting down the war's final minutes. The tank stood on the shoulder of a ruined road. All around, fields pitted with craters, shards of metal, splinters of trees. The air smelled of oil, gasoline, and rain. In the distance, cannonade, dull, far off, like the earth's heartbeat. Horobets stood by the hull, spreading the map on the armor. Beside him, Sashko, Petrenko, Klim. On the armor, diesel stains, dust, and handprints. Horobets. Here, the bridge over the Spree. Their last line. If we break through, we go straight into Berlin. He ran a finger along the map. Handwritten marks, arrows, red lines. The radio crackled, broken phrases, snatches of voices. 4th Company, delay on approach, enemy on the bridge, at least 2 heavies. Horobets listened, nodded. Horobets. 2 tigers on the bridge. The same ones they talked about yesterday. Still wedged in like a cork in the throat. Klim, Spitz. Look how they cling. Stubborn even when it's over. Sashko stood near, glancing at the map. His face was worn, but his eyes were steady. Sashko. Commander, why us there? No one comes back from that. Horobets drew in a quiet breath. Horobets. Because we got through Kursk, through the Dnipro, through everything. Now, just one more bridge. One more day. Silence. A light wind stirred the flag on the antenna. Petrenko, muttering. Damn tracks, one more stretch and they'll give. We still have to reach Berlin. Even if it's on smoke. Klim. We'll make it. This iron horse may have lost its shoes, but its heart still beats. They laughed. A quiet laugh, brief, like relief before a storm. Nearby stood another T-34, Seryenko's tank. Scratches on its turret, soot-stained paint, but the engine idled evenly. In a few minutes they would go together, Horobets in front, Seryenko covering. Horobets took the radio, pressed the button. 2, come in. Do you copy? Through the static came Seryenko's voice, rough, hoarse, but steady. Copy you, 1. We're in position per HQ. 2 with busted tracks, but we can move. We'll get there with you. Horobets. Stay close. If you can, don't dive into the smoke. There are ruins on the left, we can use them as cover. Seryenko. Roger. And, Horobets. If it comes to it, you go first. I'll cover. Horobets didn't answer right away. Horobets. We all go. Together. He set the radio down on the hull. The map lay under his palm again, he looked at lines, arrows, numbers. Close up, Horobets' fingers on the map like touching scars. Here we are, and here they are. Between us, the bridge. Distance, 3 kilometers. But these 3 kilometers are 3 lifetimes. Sashko looked at him. Sashko. Commander, aren't you afraid? Horobets gave a faint smile. Horobets. When you stop being afraid, that's the end. Fear means you're still alive. Klim sat on the armor, rolling a shell casing in his hands like a talisman. Petrenko wiped his hands on a rag, stared into the distance. Sashko bent to the sight, as if to glimpse the future. Horobets took out a worn photo, old, creased. A woman with a child. He looked for a few seconds, folded it, slid it back into his breast pocket. Horobets. Sashko, check the sight. Petrenko, check the oil. We move in 5. Sashko. Copy, Commander. The engine's hum swelled. A small lurch, the tracks eased forward, biting into the ground. The radio woke again. All units, 5 minutes to go. Objective, break through to the bridge. After the bridge, push into the urban defensive line. Move without halts. Klim, under his breath. Without halts. I know those words. Without halts, until the fuel or the heart runs out. Petrenko smiled. Petrenko. Let the fuel run out, not the heart. The tank moved. Dust rose behind, sun flashed across cracked armor. They rode in silence. The radio crackled. Sashko peered into the sight, as if searching early for the enemy's shadow. Sashko. Commander, looks like smoke ahead. Maybe they're already fighting. Horobets. Likely our mortars. About 500 meters. Then, open ground. Klim. And that's where their hell begins. Horobets was quiet, then said softly. Ours too. 2 T-34s rolled down the road. A third behind them, and a column of trucks farther back. On the horizon, black smoke. A sudden explosion in the distance. The ground shuddered. Petrenko. Mine. Minefield ahead, Commander. Horobets. Sashko, see anything? Sashko. Yes, markers. Old ones from yesterday's fight. We'll go right, slow. The tank edged forward, tracks scraped over wreckage. Another mine blew somewhere nearby, throwing up dirt. Klim. Berlin's greetings. The radio came alive. 1, this is, 2. We're 100 meters back. Holding distance. Horobets. Copy, 2. Keep contact. I'll call clear. Gradually, quiet. Only engine thunder, the knock of metal, the radio's static. In those minutes there was no fear or bravery. There was only the habit of going forward. Stopping meant thinking. Thinking meant remembering everyone who wouldn't return. Sashko peered into the sight. Sashko. Commander, eyes on the bridge. Smoking. A little over a click. Horobets. There it is. Our ticket home. He breathed in, glanced at the crew. Boys, what's next isn't a rehearsal. Get ready. Check shells. Oil. Safety latches. Inside, tension. But it was quiet, like current. Klim shut the hatch, whispered. Now this is truly the calm before the storm. Horobets laid a hand on the gun, as if greeting it. Well then, old girl. A little more, and home. Both T-34s moved one behind the other. The air sang with distant artillery, but there was no battle yet, only heavy thumps, like the city's heart beating underground. The road twisted between ruins. Once there had been warehouses, workshops, homes. Now, only walls with blown-out windows. Sunlight filtered through smoke, turning everything golden gray, like an old photograph. Sashko cautiously peered from the hatch, scanning ahead. Sashko. Commander, I see the bridge. Wreckage on the right, smoke on the left. Looks like our guys tried to go yesterday and didn't make it. Horobets. Yeah. They fell there. Now it's our turn. The radio hissed, Seryenko's voice. 1, this is, 2. We're on you. Enemy beyond the bridge, 2 Tigers confirmed. Possibly one more left behind the smoke. Horobets nodded briefly. Copy. Closing distance. Keep wedge formation. We're center, your flank. No stops. Engines roared louder. Dust rose, mixing with smoke. Klim, under his breath. That's it. Only forward now. Horobets said nothing, but his hand rested on the gun. Sashko's eye in the sight caught the first flashes beyond the bridge, glints that could be sun, or muzzle fire. Berlin was burning from within. The streets narrowed like throats choking on smoke. The walls breathed heat, and the air smelled of oil and dust. 2 T-34s, Horobets and Seryenko, moved in formation. Between them, infantry, hiding in the shadows of ruined buildings. Horobets, Petrenko, half speed. Sashko, keep your sight on the arches. Klim, armor-piercing on top. Petrenko, yes, sir. The radio crackled. Seryenko's voice came through, rough, tired, but steady. Seryenko, first, this is second. 2 Tigers on the bridge. I'll take the left, you take the center. Horobets, copy that. Don't expose yourself. A flash erupted in a third-floor window. Petrenko, Faust. Horobets, Sashko, high explosive, that window. Sashko, fire. The facade shattered. Dust rained down as the T-34 kept moving, tracks grinding on stone. Ahead, the bridge over the Spree. Behind the smoke stood a tiger, black, motionless, waiting. Sashko, commander, target in sight. 600 meters. Horobets, Klim, armor-piercing, under the turret. Petrenko, stay low by the parapet. Klim, loaded. Horobets, fire. The shell slammed into the stone near the tiger, ricochet. A second later, the tiger fired back. The shockwave hit the T-34 like a hammer, fragments rained from the walls. Petrenko, still intact. Horobets, again, higher. Sashko, fire. The shot struck true this time. Flames burst from the tiger's side. To the left, another explosion. Seryenko, second tiger on the flank. Engaging. 2 thunderous blasts. Seryenko, hit confirmed. It's burning. Horobets, good work, second. The bridge cleared, but beyond it, another maze of streets awaited. To the right, a gun nest in a basement, to the left, a machine gun behind a gate. Horobets, Sashko, right basement. Klim, 2 high explosives, 1 to the basement, 1 to the gate. Klim, ready. Explosions tore the street apart. Smoke mixed with sunlight. Infantry surged forward through shattered doorways. The next square was black with soot, a fountain with no water, a headless statue, a broken city heart. And then, through the haze, a panther. Sashko, 400 meters. Horobets, under the gun mantlet. Fire. The round ricocheted. The panther fired back, the ground shook. Klim, second round loaded. Sashko, fire. The panther jerked, wounded, but still alive. Then from the flank came Seryenko's shot, perfect. His shell tore through the enemy's side. Fire burst from the hull. Seryenko, target destroyed. Horobets, hold your ground, second. We're advancing. For a moment, the world fell silent. Only smoke, dust, and the ringing of metal filled the air. Klim, commander, maybe now Berlin is ours. Horobets, not yet. But close. A sharp whistle. Sashko, Faust. Roof. Horobets, machine gun. Sashko, firing. Bullets ripped through the edge of the roof. The Faust patron misfired, its charge slamming into a dead wall. Petrenko, that was close. Horobets, as long as the engine purrs, we're alive. The smoke began to clear. Sunlight broke through the haze, reflecting off the T-34's scorched armor. A small, bright spark in the ruins of Berlin. Inside the tank, the air was hot, it moved like a living thing. Metal rasped. With each breath, sweat ran over faces, mixing with dust, oil, and blood from scratches. Horobets sat with head bowed, the map on his knees, crumpled, blackened. Klim, gasping, commander, it's quiet now. Maybe that's it? Maybe it's over? Horobets, it's over when the engine's silent forever. While it purrs, we move. Sashko, radios hissing, no link. Petrenko, antenna must have been torn off. Back at the bridge. Horobets, no matter. We won't get lost in twos. He stood, cracked the hatch and peered out. Ahead through the ruins, a street flooded with smoke like milk. The sun through the gray filter gave a dull golden light like the last day of summer. Behind, an engine growled, Seryenko maneuvered by the ruined bank. His T-34 was soot-black as well, but alive. Horobets, into radio through static, 2, how copy? Seryenko, quiet here. But from the left alley I hear tracks. Maybe an armored car or something else. Watch your sector. Horobets, copy. We're right. Setting in behind the arch. The alley seemed alive, every sound a betrayal. On a roof, metal struck metal with a hollow ring. Horobets looked up but saw only shreds of smoke. Sashko, commander, something flickered on the right. Horobets, where? Sashko, in the yard there, beyond the tram track. Horobets, Petrenko, ease off. Sashko, prep he. Klim, eyes open. A second of stillness. Then, a sharp hiss like a snake's. Sashko, Faust. The blast tore the air. The tank lurched as if punched by a giant fist. Inside went hollow, the light died. Screech of metal, smell of burning oil, sudden hell. Petrenko, commander. The voice cut. Horobets grabbed the wall, felt the hot air scorch his cheeks. Horobets, Sashko. Klim. Sashko, horse, here. Hit the side. Fuel. Flame seeped through a seam, the dance of fire gathered force. Each second, a year. Klim, commander, the ammo. If it goes, not even ashes. Horobets, out. Now. He yanked at the hatch. Metal was hot as a skillet. Outside, more Faust blasts. The sky opened, blinding, smoky, screaming. Horobets climbed first, hauled Sashko, then Klim. Petrenko remained below, still. Sashko, commander. Petrenko. Horobets, through smoke, no time. Move. They slid down the burning armor like a hot roof. Flame already pouring from the hatches, their T-34 was aflame. Behind, Seryenko shouted into the radio. Seryenko, 1. Fall back. Fall back, another Faust coming. Horobets, copy. We're on the ground. Explosion. The turret wrenched upward, metal cried like a human. The air waved through them into dust. Horobets fell, covered his head, everything swam, only a droning in his ears. Silence. He opened his eyes, Petrenko's helmet lay before him. Charred, but recognizable. He lifted it slowly, held it like something sacred. Horobets' inner voice. We followed the lines on maps. The fingers that showed the way. And each time it seemed, a little more, another meter, another bridge. But maps don't lead us. We draw them with our tracks. We have life, short as a shot. And we have death, hot as armor after battle. Everything else is silence. Sashko, behind him, rasping, commander, what now? Horobets, now, forward. We have a second tank. They stood and, staggering, moved through smoke toward Seryenko's machine. It stood behind a collapse, engine beating like a heart. A hatch opened. Seryenko, get in, brother. There's room yet. Horobets nodded, looked back, their own tank burning, the turret fallen to the side. Horobets, whisper, rest, old friend. You did everything. The roar of engines sank into muffled blasts. Both Soviet tanks pushed forward through smoke, Seryenko behind, Horobets ahead. The air was heavy, trembling with heat. Where the second Tiger had stood there was now a black blot of fire, the turret flung aside. But the first, the main one, still lived. It crouched behind ruins, masked by smoke like a shadow. Its gun slowly turned toward Horobets. Horobets steered through a narrow lane between ruined buildings. In the sight, rubble, quiet. Klim, Commander, this sector is clear. Horobets, don't jump to it. Seryenko, do you copy? Seryenko, radio, crackling, holding position, left track damaged. I'm with you. If I spot movement, I'll cover. At that moment, a flash. Out of the smoke a glint, and the shell hit Horobets' side. The blow was so strong even the engine paused a heartbeat. Metal trembled, flame ran along the hull, smoke flooded the hatch. Sashko, Commander, we're burning. Horobets, don't panic. Hold on. Klim, Petrenko, bail. In the headphones, Seryenko's voice. Seryenko, 1, get out. I see you. Fall back to me, quick. Horobets, hands scorched, smashed the hatch. Flame already at their feet. Horobets, horse out. To Seryenko. They leapt into dust and smoke, gulping hot air. Behind, their tank burning like a candle in the dark. Ahead, Seryenko. His T-34 still breathed, the turret swung toward the enemy, ready for a last stand. The explosions ebbed. Only distant bursts raked the air, like memories that refused to fade. Where engines had roared an hour before, now, silence. The sun sank behind Berlin's ruins. Its rays fell through dust, drawing golden bands across charred armor. By their destroyed T-34 sat Horobets. His helmet off, hair matted with dust and sweat. His hands trembled as he pulled off a glove. On his fingers, soot, oil, blood. Beside him on the ground lay a hatch blown off by the blast, through it the innards, scorched wires, a melted sight. The tank that had crossed so many fronts with them now lay mute. And it seemed that this calm was the most frightening sound of the day. A few meters away stood Seryenko's T-34. Its engine still warm. On the tracks, dust and chunks of brick. From the smoke over the ruins came a crackle, a roof falling somewhere. Amid this soundless world, foreshadows. Sashko sat with his back to the armor. His chest rose heavily. A cough tore his throat, but he laughed. Sashko, horse, that's it, Commander, alive again. Horobets looked at him, didn't answer. He knew, words were worthless now. His eyes fixed on the black hull that had burned. Flame, already dying, reflected in his gaze. Klim stood a little apart. He held his helmet, traced a bullet gouge with his finger. Then lifted his head, the sky above them. Gray, but calm. No planes. No tracers. Klim, boys, it's quiet for the first time. No one answered. Silence was truly strange. It hurt to listen after the hurricane of sound. Petrenko sat on a piece of armor, stripping a pistol. His hands worked by habit, as if for the 1000th time. He spoke without lifting his eyes. Petrenko, remember at Kursk we said if we survived one more time, that'd be enough? Horobets answered after a pause. Horobets, I remember. And we survived again. The radio crackled. The signal was weak, but through the static came a voice. Berlin, almost ours, a few blocks left. Horobets lifted his head. A strange smile on his face. Horobets, almost ours. Sashko, whisper, then it wasn't for nothing. Horobets, not for nothing. The air smelled of burned diesel and brick dust. The sun sank lower. Warm light lay across Seryenko's face as he stood with the radio. He said nothing, only listened to the ether. Seryenko, they're saying, the center's taken. They say the fascists are surrendering in groups. Klim, surrendering? We live to see it? Horobets, we did. But who will we tell? No one replied. Sashko watched, then looked away. Sashko, Commander, remember how we bogged down in the mud near Kharkiv? Horobets, smiles, how could I forget? You said then, it's a sign to go home. Sashko, maybe this time it really is. Klim, low, home, where is that? Horobets, where we're remembered. He looked at Sashko and saw the boy who had joked yesterday about dumplings in the mess. Now, eyes older than his face. And for the first time Horobets felt, the war truly was ending. Not because of an order, not because Berlin fell, but because they had no strength left to fight. Petrenko set the rifle down. Petrenko, did you see how it burned? Ours. Horobets, I saw. Petrenko, I thought we wouldn't get out. Horobets, but we did. Because we had to. A hum in the sky. Not blasts, planes. But this time, ours. Red stars on the wings. They flew over the city and vanished beyond the horizon. All raised their heads. They were silent. Only Sarenko said quietly. Ours. Horobets took a canteen, uncorked it. Drank water, warm as the air. Handed it to Sashko. He drank and smiled. Sashko, to life, Commander. Horobets, to life. Because if we're alive, it wasn't for nothing. A pause. Wind moved the smoke, the sun touched the ruins, everything seemed frozen. A bird flew over them, the first of the day. Klim watched it and said. Klim, there goes silence. Flying. He smiled through the dust. They sat by their machine that had burned. But somewhere inside each knew, tomorrow would be morning. And when they heard an engine again, it would no longer be war, but the road home. Horobets stood by his old, burnt-out tank. He didn't speak, he simply touched the armor, like someone saying goodbye to a friend. Dust and soot on his fingers, but he didn't wipe them away. On the contrary, he clenched his fist, as if to keep a piece of the steel that had saved them a dozen times. Beside him, Sashko, Klim, and Petrenko. They stood in silence, looking to the horizon where the sun began to rise. It gilded the ruins, the broken brick, the armor of Sarenko's tank, now their only home on tracks. Sarenko stood by his T-34, feeling a dent on the turret. Sarenko, with a grin, still alive, old horse. Might even make it to the Dnipro. Sashko, it will. As long as they give fuel. Klim, we'll make it on smoke, if it's to go home. They laughed quietly. Not happily, tiredly, honestly. The kind of laugh born after hell. Horobets stepped away a few paces and looked to the horizon. In the distance, above the ruins, the black dome of the Reichstag. Sunlight fell right on it. Horobets, whisper, we live to see it. Berlin is ours. Petrenko, what now, Commander? Horobets sighed, eyes still on the sky. Horobets, now, home. Tracks began to move slowly. Links creaked over stone. The tank rolled along a narrow ruined street, between burnt-out buildings, through debris. No one spoke, each thinking his own thoughts. The sun stung their eyes, but no one looked down. Sashko kept a hand on the turret, staring ahead. Sashko, home, hard to believe. Klim, if only we knew where that home is now. Horobets, where they wait for us. And if no one waits, we'll find the road ourselves. On the road lay remnants of German kit, broken guns, helmets. Wind carried dust and the smell of smoke. They drove past an old sign with German letters, now just a board on the ground. Horobets glanced in the rear view, their burned tank fading in the dust. Horobets, whisper, farewell, old one. Sashko, he got us there, Commander. The best he could. Horobets, and we didn't fail him. On the turret Klim leaned against the armor. He lifted his head and watched birds flying. Klim, Commander, look. Birds are flying east. Horobets, smiles, see? They already know the way. Sashko, so will we. Horobets picked up the canteen. Horobets, to those who didn't make it. He took a sip and passed it to Sashko. Sashko drank in silence. Petrenko looked ahead and said. Petrenko, do you think, Commander, will there ever be silence again? Horobets, there already is. We just haven't learned to listen to it.